Good evening, this is Ali Tarnishi at Connect with Ali, and our show focuses on cultural education and raising awareness through dialogue to inspire a positive change. Let's dive together. We bring a local guest and a guest from all over the world to discuss diversity, inclusion, equity, and community. And today I have my friend Anne-Marie. Welcome and nice to have you, Anne-Marie. And Anne-Marie is a global thinker with an entrepreneurial spirit. Anne-Marie is the creator of Awake and Advanced System featured in the co-authored book called Dreaming Big and Being Bold. As a transformational life coach and champion for youth leadership, she teaches female youth and women leaders how to achieve greater success by igniting their inner genius. With over 25 years as an innovative leader in education, she continues to contribute to the advancement of the human potential by assisting to redesign education in collaboration with the mover and shaker around the world. Welcome, my friend Anne-Marie, and nice to have you. And all the way from Fredericton, we have my friend Arianne Melara, was born in and raised in El Salvador and currently lives in New Brunswick, Canada. She graduated from St. Thomas University with an honored Bachelor of Arts in Economy and International Relation. Her personal and professional background is characterized by her passion for diverse social issues and her strong dedication to make her community better through collaboration. Arianne has 6 years of experience working in the nonprofit sector before joining in BMC. She worked with an international organization supporting experiential service learning program with educators and students in Ontario. So both my guests have a lot of experience in diversity and with youth and education. Welcome, both of you. Welcome, Anne-Marie.
Well, thank you for having me, Ali.
Thank
it's quite
you.
an honor.
Thank you. Nice to have you.
It's really nice.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Anne-Marie. I know I just did a little blurb about you. So tell us what we don't know about Anne-Marie.
Wow, where do I start? Well, one thing that I would like to share is to thank you, Ali, for giving me the opportunity to be a co-author into another book. The book that, Ali, you had that vision of bringing people from all over the world so that we could unite in our message of peace and love and inspiration for leaders from all over the world. So I'm quite honored and happy to be part of that book that was just recently launched on Saturday.
Thank you.
And so that is something that I'd like to share. And another thing that I would like to share is that I have an interest in peace, bringing peace into advancing a peace culture into our world. And that's how we met, Ali. You remember you came to that Peace Cafe?
100%.
Yeah, this was what, about 2 years ago?
2 years, yeah.
2 years ago, so that's how we met, through peace. And we've helped to create a peace culture in the area. We're still working at it. Obviously, peace culture is something that we constantly work on. And I happen to be interested to advance a culture of peace, mainly with youth in schools and also with women leaders. As a life coach, I love supporting my women leaders who desire to have more clarity in their life, on their purpose, so that they can answer very clearly who they are, why they're here, and where they're going.
Amazing. A lot of diversity, peace, and community involvement. Love that.
And I love to travel, so I'm looking forward to traveling once the pandemic is over.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Nice to have you, my friend, and thank you for sharing that with us. And my friend Arianne, tell us a little bit about yourself, what we don't know about Arianne, besides what I just said.
Well, I just want to echo Anne-Marie in thanking you, Ali, for having me as a guest in your show. And thank you, Anne-Marie, for the connection with Ali. I'm super grateful to be a part of your show tonight. I think you've shared a lot about me already. I do think it's important for me to locate myself. So I just want to begin by saying that I'm working and living and joining you from the unceded Wolastoqey, Passamaquoddy, and Mi'kmaq territory, unceded territory. And I'm just so grateful to be welcomed on these lands. In August of this year, it will be 10 years since I've been in Canada. And as an immigrant woman myself, it's a reminder that the lands that I've been welcomed to have been previously occupied by independently thriving Indigenous societies, and that the waves of immigration have really resulted in a deep and long history of forceful disruption to Indigenous people's ways of living and traditional ways of living and knowing. So I just want to, it's important for me to recognize that, especially as I work in a sector that continues to welcome many families to the province. I guess I'll wear a little bit of two hats. One hat is representing the work that I've done and I'm currently doing, managing the youth file at the New Brunswick Multicultural Council as the manager of youth inclusion, policy lead, and stakeholder engagement. It's quite a bit of a long title. But MVMC, for your viewers who are not aware, is the umbrella organization. It's a bilingual umbrella organization for all of the immigrant serving agencies and multi and ethnocultural associations of the province of New Brunswick. In these 4 years or almost 5 years that I've been part of MVMC, I've had the immense pleasure to work with phenomenal youth in this province, leading this provincial and bilingual youth leadership program called Imagine New Brunswick. It's actually one of my, I would say, not only professional but personal milestones. And I'd love to get a chance to talk to you more about that. And the second hat that I'll represent, I guess, is one of like my own personal journey as an immigrant woman myself who arrived to Canada at the age of 18 as an international student. And, you know, just going through what I've gone through and kind of how, having a flashback of how I was in the university at the campus and the cafeteria and meeting so many people who were part of community boards. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, I hope that someday I'll be in a position where, you know, the community will have so much trust in me that I can actually be a part of a community board and have some sort of impact that way. And today, you know, almost 10 years down the line, I'm so proud to say that I'm part of 2 community boards and really feel part of the community where I live, that I'm part of the community doing the community work, which I think is super important. So yeah, let's talk about DICE. So thank you for having me.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Arianne, joining us all the way from Fredericton. And you can tell you are involved a lot with diversity, with the youth empowerment and all that stuff. So that just will bring us to the first question, ladies. What does diversity mean to you? Anne-Marie, anybody can go first.
You'd like me to start? So, yeah, thank you for sending me those questions. And I have to say, Ali, I did a lot of work today to get ready for this interview. Yes, I think I am. And yeah, so the first thing that came to my mind with that question, what is diversity for me? I heard the word variety.
Variety, okay.
So for me, diversity is respecting the variety. The opposite of diversity would be identical or uniformity. So that would be the opposite. So diversity is really, to me, I see expansion, I see honoring, respecting the diverse opinions, ideas, cultures, genders, religions. It encompasses all of that.
I love that. Variety, expansion, and just encompasses all that. And that's what diversity is about. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, and you know, with the word expansion as well, the opposite of expansion would be contraction. So when you feel confined, you feel boxed in. To me, that is not diversity. That is not respecting diversity.
Love that. I love that. And usually diversity, what give it its beauty is when we unleash the uniqueness that each one have, that where the diversity shine and
yes.
grow.
And I know you love quotes, and I have a few quotes on diversity. How would you like that?
So that we would love to have some for sure.
Yes, you want me to share one right now?
Sure.
This is from Ola Joseph. He is a Nigerian-born speaker out of Houston, Texas. And he says that diversity is not about how we differ. Diversity is about embracing one another's uniqueness.
Oh, I love that. And yeah, embracing one
Another's
and another uniqueness.
uniqueness.
Wow, I
Yes.
love that. Really
Yeah.
amazing. And you know what? When uniqueness come together, and that's you told me to bring this book, and
Yes.
that's exactly one. Let's connect one world, one people. This book have like 13 country, 5 continent, people from Lebanon, from Kuwait, from Emirat, from Europe,
US.
from US, from Canada. They come together, and each one have their unique power that bring the world together. So thank you very much, my friend. And now we will go all the way to Fredericton and hear what does diversity mean from El Salvador, New Brunswick. Arianne, tell us.
Yes, I pretty much similar to Anne-Marie, I was also preparing for your questions, and I'm going to go a little bit off the script here and maybe answer question 1 and 2 at the same time. But I think that maybe where my reflection was maybe relates a little bit to the quote that Anne-Marie just shared, because for me, I find it helpful to think about equality and inclusion when I think about diversity. So
Quality?
equality speaks to the
Equality, you said?
equality and inclusion.
Okay.
Because I think that, equality speaks to the point of seeing no differences and everybody's equal, which is great because it aims to promote fairness. But it ends up kind of terrible because it only works if everyone starts from the same place and needs the same help. Diversity speaks to the point of embracing everyone's differences, which is also great, but this does not guarantee that everybody feels part of the work, right? So inclusion is where we really want to get to. We want to make sure that everybody feels included with all of their differences and despite their differences. So they're still able to become part of the whole, and that the differences work for them rather than against. Because you really, in that type of context, you really allow people to feel all of these, kind of like what Anne-Marie said about, diverse, like differences, to the diverse members of the society to really feel valued and included in their community. So the value of diversity is that no matter how smart you are, you can never come up with a complete list of things that would never occur to you. So having a diversity of experiences represented and around the table allows us to reflect upon the sorts of barriers that can sometimes be invisible, so that everyone can have a chance at being part of creating this future that we want to build. So that's how I think about diversity, and I think it's inclusion that we should embrace, and I would maybe take it even a step further and say, let's embrace the concept of belonging, like the fact that you belong somewhere. I think that's where true inclusion would take place.
I love that. I love that. Quality, inclusion, fairness, and belonging, because the sense of belonging is a big part of that. So that just will bring us to the next question. I know, diversity, we could talk all day about it because it's it's a huge, and everyone passionate about that, and I can feel that from the conversation with both of you. So this just brings us to diversity is being invited to a team, and inclusion is diversity is being invited to a team, and inclusion is being invited to play in the team. What do you think of that statement?
I love that. I love the play. As soon as I heard play, for me, I heard fun, cooperation, collaboration. And when I'm invited to play, there's usually a set of rules that are known to everybody. And we're invited to follow those rules. So to play with inclusion means that it's going to be fair, like Arianne just said. So it brings the element of fairness, of justice, of a sense of belonging as well, because you know, when you invite people to play, it's because there's a connection with the people you want to play with. You know, there's that sense of belonging. And so that's what I would like to share with that.
Love that. Fun, collaboration, engagement, connection.
Yeah.
It's all come together.
Yeah.
And we are having fun by Let's Dyson together. And that's what it's all
We
about.
are. We are.
What do you think of that statement, Arianne? Diversity is being invited to a team, and inclusion is being invited to play in the team. And I love, by the way, the big word map behind you, just like have all the the word together.
Yes, all the diversity. No, I love that statement too, and it made me think about another one that's very similar, about how diversity is being invited to the party and inclusion is being invited to dance. So it made me think about that, and I think, you know, I think it's so true, and it makes me think about inclusion is just like we were talking about. It really makes you feel that you're part of that space, that you're not just there, but you're part of it. You know, it's like when you're talking about, I heard the president of the African Association of New Brunswick, Yusuf, speak about this last summer when we were at the, I think he was speaking at the Black Lives Matter rally. And I remember he shared this quote about how, like, you know, you can have a chair, and a chair is integrated into the table, like that the chair is there. It's you know it's in the table, it's next to the table, but does that chair feel as part of the table? And it's like, we don't want to take anyone's chair away from the table. We just want to add our chair into the table. So it's really about making sure that everyone has that chair at the table. It's not about removing someone's chair from the table. It's not about removing someone's voice from the table. It's about making people feel heard, included, and feel that they can be part of that work. I hope that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it does make sense, because what it's inclusion is all about: fairness, equality, and being part of the team, and being listened to, and being heard, and being valued, because that's when we grow. When we feel like we are respected, we are understood, we feel we are part of the team, we feel like that's what we love about Canada. It's a country of inclusion, a country of diversity. So there is still, that's why we are doing this conversation, there is still work need to be done, and that's everywhere. But this let's dice together and bring a local and a guest from all over the world, so we get to understand what does DICE mean from both perspective, from a Canadian and from immigrant perspective, because if we are not on the same page, we cannot move forward. So we need to get to understand that shared understanding between both, and we get to move. So let's keep this conversation rolling. And we are just starting that ripple effect. Even if this emission or this program stop, we want people to keep doing that, this discussion, because to break the ice, to understand. Because if we don't understand each other, we are not really moving anywhere. So that's just bring us to the next question, which we will answer, I think, after a break. How can we foster the cross-cultural communication to our young future leaders? So I will just ask my audience as well, so they can leave their comment on our channel. How can we foster the cross-cultural communication to our young future leaders? And so yes, with that question being asked, please send us your question or your comment, and we would love to hear your input and your comment into that. So I will repeat it again. How can we foster the cross-cultural communication to our young future leaders? So we will be back after the break, and I really appreciate what you shared, Anne-Marie, with us. That's amazing about diversity, and the same thing with Arianne. Thank you very much. We'll be right back after the break. Hello, hello, guys. So we are dicing together here with Arianne all the way from Fredericton and my friend Anne-Marie. And the question we ask, how can we foster the cross-cultural communication to our young future leaders? Anyone can go.
Who's going to start first?
Lady-
Arianne, you want to go first?
Yeah, let's.
Sure, I can definitely go first. Thank you. I think that's a very important question. When I read this question, I reflected on how important this is, really. New Brunswick is becoming more diverse and multicultural as the years go by. And what does this look like when we talk about young people? You know, classrooms are becoming more diverse. They are conversations are becoming richer. There's more and more families that represent diversity when it comes to ethnicity, cultural, and even linguistical diversity too. And this matters because when you think about it, the only constant in life is change. And operating in this pluricultural and plurilinguistic world is necessary because it's the only way that we can move forward. There's really no turning back. So the way that we all, but especially young students, adapts their understandings, their way of working with others, of relating to others in an inclusive way, is not only crucial for newcomer youth or anyone really new to the province or young people, but it benefits everyone. So we know that young people in the province want to imagine New Brunswick in a whole different way. They want to see visible minorities in New Brunswick taking charge. They want to make a real difference. They want access to opportunities. They want community connections. They want to end racism, discrimination, bullying. They want environmental stewardship. And I think it's so important to instill in all students with a strong sense of embracing cultural diversity. And this is actually empirically proven to be beneficial for all children, both locally and internationally raised. And the opposite of doing that is really really lacking that understanding of how to relate with others, and that's so important with like cross-cultural communication. It also helps to address how either racially or culturally diverse young leaders in the province would combat sources of bullying, of discrimination, or mental health issues, or these attitudes that can be maybe difficult to reverse in adults. So it's really important to start from a very early age, and I think that's how we can really foster that cross-cultural communication. And the other way is to really, I think it's important for us to continue creating, offering, and nurturing opportunities where young people can really be experience cross-culturalism in all of its forms. That's really the way to go, and that's how I think we can foster. It's a really big question, but I think it's. I just wanted to communicate the importance of doing that too.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing your insight and see it from your perspective. And those points you shared are really, really good and very valid. That's what we need to instill in the student, the value of multiculturalism and also the cross-cultural communication. My friend Anne-Marie, you have so many years, 25 years in innovative leader education. Want to see it from your perspective, my friend.
That's right. Well, I would like to first of all echo and support what Arianne is saying. I fully embrace, Arianne, what you just shared with us. And for me, when I hear cross-cultural communication, it's really to help youth leaders, first of all, to understand communication. What is communication? How do we communicate? And cross-cultural meaning across the cultures. So meaning how can we relate with one another when we are not from the same culture? That's how I understood your question. Well, like Arianne has mentioned, New Brunswick is transforming itself, becoming so much more diverse and multicultural. So much more than, because I'm from here, from New Brunswick, but I left New Brunswick in the late 80s and I came back about 10 years ago. And I'm very happy to see so many diversity of cultures, because I've lived in Winnipeg and Calgary where it was everywhere, and I had friends from different parts of the world who were living in those cities. And so when I moved here, I can see that there's a change, and I embrace that. So coming back to your question, for me, what came to my mind is to help youth leaders is really to use the film or the video media. I think that youth really connect to watching films and watching videos where with a facilitator who would be trained in cross-cultural communication and having the right media, the video and the films, and have dialogues like, you know, organized discussions, whether it is at community centers or in the classroom. That would be very beneficial so that children, because sometimes children will not get that in their family upbringing, but the school becomes the hub where we can really educate and pass on these new knowledge. And because I certainly did not get that when I was in school, and I'm hopeful that it is more discussed now in schools. I've been out of the school system for a number of years, but I'm trusting that it is happening. You know, a simple question like this, Ali, do all French people speak the same French language?
No.
You know that.
Yeah, it's
but I'm wondering, would youth know that? You know, most of them would, but it's to have a conversation around that, because that makes the cultural differences, and how do we honor and respect that and embrace that? Another thing that I thought about would be inviting students to volunteer on global projects, whether it be local or globally. There's all kinds of opportunities. I know of an organization, Tammy is part of that organization, called ANUA, so it's spelled A-U-N-U-A, academy.com. And this organization is inviting youth leaders to step up, and anyone who's interested to connect to one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and desire to make an impact locally and globally, they would have their community to help them, support them. So that's a great way to understand cultures. When I was in school, there's the United Nations website that has a lot of information where we can go as educators or even parents. There's another organization that's called UNESCO, and it stands for United Nations Educational, Scientific, Cultural Organization. And it is filled with programs for schools, ideas of activities you can do. There's even conferences organized for youth. I just saw there was one in Winnipeg organized where students from high school get together and they have meaningful conversations to bring forward this topic of how can we better relate with one another.
Amazing, amazing. Some great ideas, some great really like access. You give us some access to some great resources, my friend, like United Nations, UNESCO, and also the program that Tammy Valier is doing. So I really like when you mention about the film or the media, because the children learn through the cartoon. When they see something through the film or through the cartoon, that they will remember that forever. Also, like a facilitator or dialogue, when they have like a dialogue at school between different culture, and each one talk about their culture, that will open that diversity and they will grow with that from an early age. I really love all what you shared, my friend. And that just will bring us to the next question. I know for time we have a few minutes left, But will bring us to the next question. Effort to foster diversity without equitable practices and intentional inclusion will mostly fall short. So I'll repeat that to my guests as well, or the audience. Effort to foster diversity without equitable practices and intentional inclusion will always fall short. What do you think about that, Arianne? Can talk about diversity as much as we want, but if there is no equitable practices, what's the point?
Yeah, when I read your question, I thought about how, a century ago, buildings were not really built with structures such as wheelchair ramps, and yet today no architect would ever dream of designing a building without ensuring that the access path that they were creating would enable every person to enter the building. So if you think about today, like take schools as an example, the access path of ensuring that every child can enter the school, it includes not only entering the school, but also be able to sit in the classroom and then go into the playtime to join their classmates for the social time. So that's the whole point. Like diversity doesn't work without having the equitable practices, as you were mentioning in your question. So what happens when not all the barriers are physical? Some of the barriers can be invisible, right? They're culturally and linguistically diverse members of the society face challenges when accessing, whether that be community buildings or even community spaces of sharing their voice and having a voice at the table and having a bit of a leadership position. And they may not face challenges physically per se, but in navigating the logistics, the knowledge approaches, the social rules that are sometimes hidden, right? Like, how do you network? There's so many different social norms that we're not used to, right? If you're different, if you're new in a context, right? And those who were probably born and raised here inherently understand. Like for example, like me, like in Latin America, it's very common to, when you say hi, like you would either like get a hug or if it's someone like maybe closer to you, like a family member or like a friend or whatever, and you would, even go for like the kiss on the cheek, and that's a very cultural aspect, and it's not it's a cultural norm that you may not know if you're not inherently born and raised there, right? And in Canada, that's not always it depends on who you're interacting with, but that's not the norm. So I think that it's really important that when we're talking about to answer your question about what do I think about this statement, I think it's absolutely right. I don't think that efforts to diversity need to take into consideration obviously the intention behind it, but also how equitable they are. And just to talk a little bit about the work that I've done at MPMC, we actually have this approach that we call the 3 paths approach. And we kind of use this as a broader lens, if you will, to kind of reflect a little bit about how we can create paths of inclusion for culturally, linguistically, and ethnically diverse members of the society. But we basically talk about the first path, which is access. So just access, basically, like how can people find the access to the support that they need? And that could be like an example I gave you, right? Like the building, right? Like access to physical access to the building, but also barriers that are not physical. So cultural and linguistical barriers to accessing the system. The second one, we call it the service path. So having navigated that access, how do you then receive that service? And what are maybe some barriers for you to receive that service? And we talk a little bit about that when we talk about some of the work that I've done with advocating for curricular recommendations on K-12 schools in the province to foster understanding of multiculturalism and immigration in schools. And then the third path is a social path, right? Because we want people to feel happy and feel welcome and belonging. So after you've navigated the access path and you navigated how to receive that path, how do you become socially integrated in ways that really are going to promote your happiness, your well-being, your local retention? So fostering that sentiment of diversity that really it's felt as a plus to that feeling of being welcome, of feeling welcomed, of feeling included, and that you can take part of the society and build relationships with the community. That's really where you're talking about those equitable practices, and diversity will really take place when you think about what are these barriers, right? Like, yeah, so just the quote, and I'll end here because I've been talking too much, and I want Anne-Marie to also add to
but
this.
you covered it. You covered it all, my friend. That was really amazing what you shared there, and that was just I really like what you shared there, and just the access, and that's what's the most important thing. And my friend Anne-Marie, the same question: effort to foster diversity without equitable practices and intentional inclusion will always fail.
Well, I certainly agree.
1 minute before the break, and we'll go back to it.
Oh.
Yeah, you can start, and we'll finish that after the break.
Okay. I certainly agree with the question that we need equitable practices in order to honor diversity and inclusion. And really, with what Arianne how she has developed the answer, I really don't have much more to add. I mean, because I do support what she said. And I love the idea, Arianne, that you brought up about what are the barriers. Because I think in order to move forward, whether with diversity, more inclusion, equity in our workplaces, in our families, in our schools, it's a matter of asking a quality question. It's not always trying to figure out the answer, but it is what is a quality question.
Quality question is what need to be asked really to have equitable things. So after that, we will be right back in the break. Thank you. So hello again. Let's dive together, and we're discussing about diversity, inclusion, equity, and community. And that will bring us to, we'll just go back to the same question we asked Anne-Marie, and effort to foster diversity without equitable practice and intentional inclusion always falls short. I know you start answering a little bit, then the break that thought. So carry on. And
well, I'm not sure that I have much more to add on to that question. Like I've mentioned, Arianne, I think, has developed it quite well.
Okay.
Like I've shared, it's a matter of not only looking at how can we answer that question, but what other questions can we ask? What is the quality question that we can ask so that we can move forward?
I love that. So
I don't really have anything else to add.
Okay.
I'm eager to go on to the next question.
Next question. So I know Arianne is leaving us soon. So we will just, we want something quick you guys can share with me here. What kind of activity we would like to see in our community to cultivate the culture of inclusion, diversity, and equity? Anne-Marie.
So what kind of activity?
We would like to see in our community to cultivate the culture of inclusion, diversity, and equity.
Yeah. Well, I think in our area, I mean, I live in the area, and I know in the Moncton, Dieppe, Riverview area, this is not where I live specifically, but I live in a community close by in Shediac. And I'm guessing that there's already activities that are being promoted, but I think it is how are they promoted? Like sometimes I will hear about an activity after the fact. So, it's really to create a system, to put a system in place so that it is deployed to a lot of people so that we can know about it.
Okay.
Because sometimes, and this is me, I'm not always on TV or the radio or social media, but could the community look at creating perhaps, and perhaps it exists and I don't even know, Ali, is there a place, like a hub place, that it is for cultural, multicultural, diverse, inclusion, equity activities happening in our area, so that they could be all funneled in one place?
Okay.
So that could be helpful to do that. How to promote cultural diversity? I love to cook. So myself, if there would be some cooking classes where I could go and learn from people from different countries where they would love to share about their culture, make it like an evening where they talk not only about food, but they could talk about, you know, their customs and stories, music. I would love that. It brings me back in Winnipeg. Winnipeg is a much larger city, so in a part of Winnipeg you would have the Italian community. You would have in another part, you know, the Arabic community and different communities, and they have their community center. And often they would organize activities where the public would be invited to go. And I would love to go there and just, you know, learn with them. And
just like Mosaic.
just like Mosaic, but it's done not just once during the year, but it's done repeatedly.
Repeatedly, okay.
Yeah, so that we can have that. I love to learn new languages, and I would love to have an opportunity to learn with people from the country who can teach me the Spanish language, who can teach me other.
Arianna can teach us some Spanish. What is diversity in Spanish?
Diversidad.
There we go. Yes. I think another thing that I was thinking about is to recognize and acknowledge the holidays of different cultures, because I'm not sure that we do that as well as the holidays of the majority of our culture. You know, do we highlight all different festivals? I'm thinking of in India, the Diwali festival, the festival of light. You know, I don't think it is highly recognized here, but that is something that I would love to participate.
It's a good idea. Love that.
And also offering more training on diversity and inclusion. And I'm thinking not only for people who are in the working realm, but for people who are no longer working, who could be, you know, retired or doing other activities, but we still want to learn and we still want to be part of the community. So is there a way to offer training so that we can learn about different cultures and how to relate with different cultures, how to respect different cultures?
Respect. Love that. That was really some nice activity that we really need to implement in our community. Let's hear from Arianne before we move to the next question. I think Arianne, I think there is, she looked like some, okay. So we will wait for Arianne, I think some technology issue here. But that brings us to the next question, my friend Anne-Marie.
Yeah.
We'll wait until Arianne come back. What type of support educator need to create a culturally inclusive and representative school community?
Wow.
What type of support educator need to create a culturally inclusive and representative school community? That's
a question that could take a long time to answer because, well, first of all, like I said, Ali, I've been out of the school system for a number of years now, so I cannot speak on what is happening in our schools right now or what is happening in New Brunswick. But the common sense that came to me is in our teachers' college or the faculty of education, what kind of training are we offering already to the student teachers? The students who are learning to become teachers. I think it would start there to really provide them a lot of information on diversity, inclusion, equity, on different cultures, so they can look at their own biases and our own stereotypes, because I'm the first one to admit, before moving to Winnipeg, I had some biases because I was not brought up in a community with a lot of cultures. So I think there's that piece of education is very important, how to educate through training. And also, I'm thinking of offering professional development. But what I would dare to share here would be that to ask the teachers, ask the educators, even invite parents to come in when you're offering these training or these professional development to learn more about cultures. And to do a survey amongst the teachers, the educators, and the parents to see, okay, what would they love to learn about, instead of picking a topic and say, okay, well, this is the topic of the day, or even organize mini sessions, have people from the community to come into the school, because I believe the school is a microcosm of our world. And especially now in New Brunswick, where we have representation of different parts of the world, we are becoming a microcosm of the world. And when we can better understand ourselves, respect ourselves, and treat ourselves with dignity at the school level, it will create a ripple effect into how we build relationships, and also in the workplace, and it just goes on from there.
Amazing. Arianne, my friend, what life experiences help you to embrace multiculturalism? The same thing will be for Anne-Marie as well. What life experience helped you to embrace multiculturalism?
Yeah. So how long do you have?
We have four,
oh my God,
4 minutes.
I could speak so much about the life experiences that I've had that have helped me embrace multiculturalism. I don't think I have enough time to talk about all of them. But I'll just say, I think that I consider myself a citizen of worlds, very different environments. I was born and raised in El Salvador, and I left El Salvador as a young older teenager, and arrived to Canada as an older young woman. So it's really I brought with me who I am to Canada, and in really being here as an international student, and Canada really exposed me to so many different diversity of cultures and just languages and traditions, that I think that has really helped to amplify my understanding of multiculturalism. As in El Salvador, it's a majoritarily Christian and Latin American society, but also through this, I come from a family who loves to travel and is very immersed in different cultures. To give you an example, my sister, she lives in Italy, and she's been living there for the past 15 years. And she's really has integrated into the Italian culture and way of living. So I'm exposed to that through my sister. But also my brother, he has lived in Qatar, in Slovakia, and I have also been exposed to that through my brother. So I think that has really allowed me to appreciate a little bit more the diversity in cultures. And then, just speaking right now about my partner a little bit, he comes from Petit Rocher, a very small town in the northern
Arianne, my friend,
province.
we have 2 minutes, and you just give us the highlight of what make you embrace that multiculturalism, and that's really amazing from an early
Sorry,
age.
I tend to speak a lot.
No, it's all right. I know this need more time. My friend Anne-Marie, what life experience helped you to embrace multiculturalism?
Well, for me, the first flash that I had when I read that question, Ali, it brought me as a teacher. I'm a grade 3 teacher in Winnipeg in the late 80s. And I'm looking at the students in my classroom, and it is an international representation.
Wow.
And at that time in Winnipeg, there was a big push in education to really embrace the different cultures. So I decided to create a little festival of like a multicultural festival with my students. They were grade 3.
Wow.
And in 3 weeks, Ali, I sent a letter to the parents stating what we wanted to do as a class, invited the family to step in. I was so amazed in 3 weeks. I had reserved the library for the families to come together after 3 weeks. The kids were dressed up in their traditional costumes. The families had baked some goods so that we can taste. And the students were also playing instruments or talking the language of their country. And it was so amazing to be able to live that with them and experience that. And that was what really brought me to experience multiculturalism at a level that it would not have happened in New Brunswick at the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
We have 30 seconds, my friend. One word, my friend, for you and Arianne. As an advocate for children leadership, what message do you have for them and their mentor? One word.
I have 4.
Okay, give me 4.
Stand up, speak up.
Stand up, speak up. Stand up, speak up. Arianne, one word or 2 words. As an advocate for children, what message do you have for them and their mentor?
Believe in yourself,
Believe in
and
yourself.
New Brunswick depends on you.
Love it.
I know it's more than 3 words, but yes.
Believe in yourself and what?
New Brunswick depends on you.
New Brunswick depend on you. Thank you very much, lady, for this amazing conversation. And we would love to have more, but time is cutting us off. So let's all see you next time.